Good evening. Good evening.
How you doing?
I'm really happy to be here. I was fortunate to be here just the last session, and I'm just as excited. It's been some 20 years, and to be able to return as the former youth governor and share some of my life experiences with the hope that these things can help you. First, as always, I want to thank the Youth and Government staff. I was having a good conversation with Fran a little while ago, to Jen and the Brocals, but to my good friend Brent, who's a little under the weather. Here, we can play a little trick on him. I'll say great things about him, but everyone says you should have heard what Lindsay said about you, so he can be concerned, and we'll let him watch the video. Also, to the advisors, I learned very well when I returned as an advisor how much I appreciate the great work you guys are doing. So everyone give your advisors a hand right now. Your advisors are leaving their families, they're leaving their personal responsibilities, their other work at school to come here and help usher you in. And also, to the alumni who are returning, Gavin and the other folks, all the alumni who are returning, I want to give you a hand for being involved too. And one thing I didn't do last time I was here, I didn't get a chance to thank the sponsors. From my experience in corporate America, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that later, you will find out really soon that during tough economic times, sponsors have to make a very serious decision when it comes down to what organizations they can support. So as Becky, as the board chair, when she came up here and talked about that, just know when you look through your book and you see the names of those organizations and individuals, now that you're learning the power of the vote, also learn the power of the dollar. And think about investing in those who chose to invest in you. They saw a great opportunity in supporting this program, and believe me, they had to make a financial decision. But the youth and government, the experience is so great, they knew it would be a great investment. So keep them in mind and support those that are supporting you. And to the governor, thank you so much for the great introduction. I know nothing but great things are going to happen with you in your future. And with that, I would like to just talk about my remarks tonight. If you see in the booklet, it talks about what will your legacy be? What will your legacy be? Now, legacy is simply defined as what you leave behind. What you leave behind. Now, I'm not talking about the Mountain Dew bottles that may be left behind on the floor or something like that, or what I left behind at the movie theater a couple weeks ago. That is a legacy, but that's not a good legacy. So let me clarify and say a positive legacy is what you're going to leave behind. But before we get to that legacy part, I want to talk to you about some other things that lead up to that. In my experiences, I call them the 3 L's. The one is the learning stage. The learning stage. And that's where you all are right now. I'm not talking about just science, technology, engineering, math, STEM, all those important things. I'm talking about the social piece. Being able to come in and youth and govern from your respective communities and being able to learn about not just yourself, but people from different backgrounds. Whether it's the UP or Detroit, East Side or West Side. This experience right now is going to be critical for your future success. And I am an example of it. When I was here 20 years ago, I was a lobbyist as well as a campaign manager for someone running for governor. Now, it's so funny that during those experiences of me advocating for legislation and shaking hands and introducing people and talking about public policy, that later impacted my life in a significant way when I moved on to my next stage, which is the living stage. That's going to come for all of you in the next few years, whether it's when you leave your respective high schools and go on to college, or you do like Specialist Funberry from Mumford and Detroit and join the military and protect our country and our world, or if you go right into the workforce. That is your living stage. And during my living stage, I was fortunate, as the introduction stated, to go on and not only return to my high school and teach and coach, but become a member of Governor Jennifer Granholm's staff. And I'll take a few moments right now and share a few of those stories, but I hope that they can help you along the way. Now, if I don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter, Huddleston Group, and Unlikely Saviors. I try to send out a positive quote every morning when I get up, and maybe that can help you. But today I'll tell you a few rules of politics that can help you along the way. Now, as you know, Jennifer Granholm is our former governor, and she was fiercely independent then and fiercely independent now, as you see her on CNN and being a talking head. But I knew her as Attorney General Jennifer Granholm, who was campaigning for governor for the state of Michigan. And I'll never forget that one campaign event, that I went from being just another field staffer to being a very close person on her campaign and her way to history. We were in Rosedale Park in my city of Detroit, not far from where I grew up at, 7 Mile of Evergreen, and she pulled up in her white, that's right, Crown Victoria, driving a campaign car. Now here's one rule of politics right here. The candidate should never drive the car. for a number of reasons. They want to be on the phone, they have an interview, they just don't need to be distracted. So keep this in mind, future campaign managers. The candidate should never drive. She pulls up, jumps out of the car, and starts running around shaking hands. Just like I did when I was here in Youth Government. And then she runs across Grand River Avenue. Now, no matter where you're from in the state of Michigan, you know Grand River Avenue is a busy street, right? She's running over trying to shake hands, dodging cars, and her sister-in-law, and also a good friend of mine, Ed, who was a former Marine as I am, said, Lindsay, go with her. Now, another rule in politics, you never want to get too close to the flame. What do I mean by that? You always want to give the candidate their personal space, unless you are the body person. I don't mean the bodyguard, state police, or the Secret Service. The body person is the one who manages the personal movements of the candidate, and eventually whoever gets elected. So they said, Lindsay, go with her. I said, fine. So I run up to her, and I said, Madam Attorney General, come with me. She liked that, and she smiled, and we got back into the parade and began running down the parade route. And I'll never forget, off to my right, there was a beautiful family sitting outside on their lawn, watching the parade go by, and something told me, it reminded me of my days in Youth Government. I just shouted out, you guys want to meet the next governor of the state of Michigan? Well, she looked at me and smiled. I did the introduction just like the days of Youth Government, and that was history, as they say. When the day was over, she came to me, Governor, and she said, Lindsay, I want you to go with me. I'm always being a jokester. I said, go with you where? McDonald's? What are you talking about? I said, no. I want you to go with me on the campaign. Now, here's another rule. No matter if the candidate tells you something, always get someone else to sign off on it. So I looked at her and I said, well, who do I need to call? He said, call the campaign manager. I did that, Becky, and 48 hours later, I was in Northfield driving her Crown Vic at 4:30 in the morning. Got to get up early to make it happen. I went on to become her advanced person. I traveled throughout the state of Michigan from the beautiful UP all over Detroit. I had access to her schedule. And for 2.5 years, people told me, Lindsay, wherever we are in the state of Michigan, when we see the governor, we expect to see you. And when we see you, we expect to see the governor. I was fortunate to be able to bring her and bring other youth governors to Detroit and connect with them because I had access to her schedule. But all those experiences came from me being here, where you guys are sitting. So do not take this experience that you're here playing politics. You are getting the basic foundation for an outstanding career in public service and leadership. I went on to become a law clerk in the legal division and finished as her deputy director for legislative affairs. Now what does that mean? I was a lobbyist, seeing Matt every day over at the Capitol. And in that role, I would go on and advocate for legislation to the 110 members of the House. If the governor had an issue, she would communicate that to me and I would share that information. And then, getting to that next stage, after the living stage, we got to the legacy stage. The governor was term limited and I knew I had to find another job. That's just the reality of politics. And the largest retailer in the world came to me to recruit me to become their lobbyist, become their Midwest representative to the company. Walmart. It was a great experience. I had Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky for one day. I always add that in there. I had some national responsibilities. I traveled the country from LA to Florida, doing work on behalf of the company, even preparing to travel outside of the company, outside of the country that is. These are some great experiences, some great personal achievements. And you all will have personal achievements. But it was that fateful day when my wife was on the other side of the bathroom door and she wouldn't let me in because she was taking a pregnancy test and we found out we were having a little girl. That changed everything. Yeah, it did. Because just like all new parents here, when you know that you're getting ready to have a child, you think about those first steps. You think about her going on to college, right, Matt? You think about boys. Yeah, I think about you guys totally differently now, right? But there was that one moment when I said to myself, what am I going to say when my daughter comes to me and says, Dad, I want to follow my dreams and passions, what should I do? When I thought about that, when I thought about what my legacy was going to be, I wanted to make sure I can answer her question in a genuine way. So even though I had this great job, even though I had this great title, six-figure income, company car, traveling the country, I said, this is not my passion. My passion was being involved with education, taking my love for sports and philanthropy and making an impact. So my point to you all this evening, young leaders, there will come a time when you have to make a decision between personal achievement and making an impact. As stated in the introduction, I went on to write a book about athletes and charity, which is available for you to pick up later on. I'll be happy to sign it. But more than writing a book with professional athletes and other individuals, I just recently received a federal grant to get into schools and use athletes to promote health and wellness. We're able to make an impact and not just a personal achievement. I'll tell you a quick story about the book. First person I interviewed for the book, you all know him, Jalen Rose. From Detroit, doing great things in philanthropy, has a school, NBA TV, ESPN Game Day. I didn't know Jalen. I didn't know him at all, but I knew I wanted to have him in the book. So the point I want to make is, when you have a passion and you have a purpose, the world will make a way for you, people. I showed up at Jalen's golf outing. I said, Jalen, man, I want to put you in my book about athletes and charity. He said, sure, man, just give me a call. I give you a call, I have your number. I don't know you like that, right? But another rule is always strike while the iron is hot. So what happened? I happened to be in a golf group that included Steve Smith of Detroit and Michigan State, a great philanthropist. I talk about him in the book. And we're going down one fairway, and I watched Jalen coming up the other way. I said, no problem. I just catch Jalen when we get back to the clubhouse. Get back to the clubhouse. I'm looking for that tall guy. Can't find him. I see his mother. I say, Miss Rose, I'm supposed to meet with Jalen and talk about my book. She said, baby, Jalen going back to LA. I said, man. But when you have a purpose and you're passionate about it, the world will make a way. I talked to a few people and they said, don't worry, Jalen's going to call you Saturday at 12 o'clock. Well, Saturday at noon came and went. Guess what happened? No phone call. I shoot out a quick email. My phone rings. Voice on the other phone, side of the line, said, this is Jalen Rose. We talked for more than an hour about his work in charity, about what he wants to do in the city of Detroit and throughout the country. We even talked about the Fab Five documentary that just came out. He even shared with me things that wasn't even in the documentary. I was overwhelmed. But it just told me right then, if I remain passionate and listen and focused on one thing, great things will happen. Now let me tell you this one thing. You all have great resumes right now. Your future is very bright. There will be struggles and challenges along the way. As an entrepreneur, when I left the safety of corporate America, I had my own challenges. But I thought back to my experience and I realized at a very young age, it's the struggle that makes you stronger. Many of you guys have plans to get right into the workforce, go on to college and do great things, whether it's the military or whatnot. But as I was telling the group earlier, life will get in the way. I'm not telling you the things you expect to happen won't happen for you, but things will happen in the way you won't expect. When I was a senior in high school, along with being youth governor, I was class president, student council president, citywide student council president. I had nothing but a promising career ahead of me, along with being an athlete. I went away to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. I was happy. We called it the Black Harvard. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went there. It was a wonderful experience, but after my first year and I came home to my mother, a single parent, I'll never forget that summer evening when she sat me outside and the cool summer breeze was passing by. And she said, honey, I can no longer, as a single parent, afford to send you to Morehouse College. And it made sense. It was $20,000 a year 20 years ago. My world was coming to an end, I thought, because my identity was wrapped up in this is what I want to happen, this has to happen. But fortunately, my advisor, Shirley Jennifer, who's since passed, she said, no matter what, always have a backup school. And what I'm telling you young people is to always have a backup plan. When Western Michigan University came and visited, I used her advice and I went down and I enrolled, and on the spot admissions I was accepted. I'm glad I did, because when I found out I couldn't return to Morehouse for financial reasons, all I had to do was make a phone call. And I went on. And what happened there was awesome. I get to Western, another great story. Wherever you go, guys, whether it's a school, a new job, find out who the leadership is. Find out who's in control. With Google, you can research that and see his picture in a second. I'm glad I did. Because now I'm at Western, right? Standing in the Union, hanging out, having a good time with all my friends. And a very small, indiscreet individual walked by with his hat down real low and a coat on looking like someone's grandfather. It was the president of the university. No one paid him any mind. No one said anything to him. But me, I looked at him and then I looked at a showcase that was right next to us. I said, Dr. Henneke, this is Delta Sigma Theta, sorority on campus. Now, that information really meant nothing, but I engaged him. Shortly thereafter, I get a phone call one early morning, and a voice with a strong German accent is on the other line, asking for Lindsay Huddleston. I said, this is he. Who is this? This is Dr. Henneke. And I jump out of my bed. I said, what can I do for you? He said, would you be interested in an internship in Washington, D.C.? I said, absolutely. Come up here and meet me at my office. I throw on my clothes. I go up there. It's a long conference table with the president of the university and the treasurer sitting right next to him. Not only was it a paid internship, he gave me money out of his personal account. My point being is, when you think things are not going your way, it's only setting you up for a greater opportunity. How can you all claim to be the leaders of the next generation if you have not been battle tested? How can you claim you're going to go on and represent others if you haven't had your own struggles you have overcome? So whatever you're going through right now, whatever challenges you have at home, with your family, socioeconomic issues, whether it's not having money or coming from a family with money and a name you have to live up to, embrace your challenge. Embrace your struggle. As I close, I'll tell you another story. And I remember it was December 1st, 2012. I was a new entrepreneur and a new dad. I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking about the issues I'm managing. And then I realized right then, my struggles are not just for me. My struggles are for those who are going to come behind me. My struggles are to be able to answer questions that my daughter's going to have. So right then and there, I thought to myself, I can tell my daughter this story, but I want to write a poem that can be there for her, whether I'm there or not. And it's called Valleys and Peaks, and I want to share that with you. It starts off, it says, Dear Madeline, I once saw a high peak off in the distance. It was my goal to reach, and I knew I could if I remained persistent. But when I started out towards my destination, I thought many would come with me, but there was a lot of hesitation. The reason I realized many didn't come with me is because they heard the path was hard and it was not going to be easy. That still did not stop me from making my plans, because I knew if you wanted to go somewhere nice, you would not have a lot of fans. Then I heard a voice help guide me along the way. It said, no matter what, throughout this journey, continue to pray. And if you want to go high, you have to spend a lot of time low. That way you'll know which way to go. And a wise man or woman knows that the valley is not that bad. So the next time you're there, don't be too sad. Because valleys and peaks are like days and night. Meaning after the darkness, there will always be light. So the next time you're in your valley, you be of good cheer, because it only means your next peak is near. Your next peak is near, Youth Governor. You guys are going to go and do great things. I appreciate it. Excellent. I appreciate that.